Midnight Lantern Archives, File 002, Room 217. Some records are incomplete, some have been altered, and some were never meant to be found. This is the account of Daniel Mercer. The following account was recorded 3 years after the events documented in File 001. The investigator was Daniel Mercer. The location was an abandoned roadside motel on the eastern edge of town. The report concerned a telephone call received at exactly 2:17 in the morning. There was no room 217.
My name is Daniel Mercer. By the time I received the report, the Blackwood Motel had been closed for nearly 20 years. The town had stopped sending patrol cars there because there was nothing left to investigate. No guests, no staff, no electricity. At least that's what the record said. The call came from the motel anyway.
Hello, please, I need help.
Ma'am, what's your location?
The Blackwood Motel, room 217.
Ma'am, there is no room 217.
I know.
That was the first thing that bothered me. Not the call, not the room number. The fact that whoever made that call already knew the room didn't exist. I drove out there just after sunrise. The Blackwood Motel sat at the end of an old county road, surrounded by woods and an overgrown parking lot. The sign still hung above the office. Most of the letters had burned out years ago. Blackwood Motel. Except for one, the number 2 was still glowing. The building had 2 floors. At least, that's what it looked like from the road. I counted the doors twice. There were 23. Room 217 was missing. Inside the office, everything was exactly where someone had left it. A register sat open on the counter, an old desk phone, a coffee cup turned upside down beside the sink, and a set of room keys hanging on the wall. There were 24 hooks, 23 keys. The missing key was numbered 217. The sound came from upstairs. I found the stairs behind the office. The carpet was damp from years of leaks, and every step complained under my weight. There were 11 doors along the upper hallway. 11. I counted them twice. 201 through 216, and then 218. There was no 217. But halfway down the hallway, I noticed something strange. One section of wallpaper looked newer than the rest. Someone had covered a doorway. There was no handle, no number, just a rectangular outline beneath several layers of paint. I put my hand against the wall. I stepped back. Then it happened again. There was no room behind that wall. I went back downstairs and started searching through the motel's records. Most of the paperwork was water damaged or covered in mold, but one ledger had been kept surprisingly well. It contained every guest who had stayed at the Blackwood between 1978 and 1994. I turned the pages slowly. Room 214, Room 215, Room 216, but there was no 217. Then I found a page that had been torn out. Someone had written the room number on the inside cover. 217. Beneath it was a date. October 17th, 1986. I recognized that date. It was the same date listed on a document I'd seen years earlier. a hospital admission record. A record belonging to Eleanor Vale. According to the hospital file, Eleanor had been admitted that morning. Her room number was 217? That couldn't be right. The hospital was gone. The motel hadn't even been built yet. The hospital had been demolished in 1991. The town archive had only a handful of surviving records. Most were routine: admissions, discharges, death certificates. But there was one box marked simply 217. Inside were 12 patient files. 11 of them had names. One did not. The unnamed patient had been admitted on October 17, 1986. The same morning Eleanor Vale was admitted. But the file wasn't for Eleanor. Her name appeared only on the back of the folder, written in pencil. Beneath it were 3 words. Transferred with him? I didn't know who him was. And the hospital records didn't say.
I went back to the Blackwood that night. I wasn't expecting anything to have changed. I was wrong. The hallway looked exactly as I'd left it. Same peeling wallpaper, same 11 doors, same sealed section of wall. Except there was one difference.
There was a door where the wall had been. The number was brass, old, tarnished, but unmistakable. 217. I stood there for almost a minute before I reached for the handle. I told myself there was a perfectly reasonable explanation. I knew there wasn't. The room was furnished. The bed was made. The curtains were closed. And there was a telephone on the nightstand. The phone began to ring.
Daniel,
Who are you?
you shouldn't have come back.
I hadn't told her my name. I hung up. The phone rang again. This time, there was no voice. The sound was coming through the receiver, and I heard 3 more knocks. These came from behind the bed. I'd heard those knocks before. On the nightstand was a motel guest register. I opened it. The page was dated October 17th, 1986. There was one entry. Room 217, Eleanor Vale. Underneath her name, someone had written 4 words. He came with her. I turned the page. There was another entry, 3 years earlier. Same room, same handwriting. But this time, the guest name was Daniel Mercer. I stared at it. I had never been to the Blackwood Motel before that night, and the ink on my name was still wet. I put the register down. I didn't care how my name got there anymore. I wanted out. I reached for the door. The handle wouldn't turn. The phone rang again.
Daniel.
Who are you?
Ask Eleanor.
The line went dead. I looked back at the register. Something had changed. Beside Eleanor's name was a new notation. Checked out. 2:17 a.m. I looked at my watch. 2:16 a.m. I heard the first knock, then another, and a third. But this time, they weren't coming from the hallway. They were coming from inside the wall, behind the bed. I backed toward the door, and suddenly, the handle turned. The door opened. The hallway was empty. I ran as fast as my legs could take me. By the time I reached the parking lot, I didn't look back. The following morning, police searched the motel. They found no room 217, They found no guest register, and they found no evidence that I'd ever been inside the building.
There was, however, one thing the police recovered: a photograph. It had been taken in 1986. The Blackwood Motel did not yet exist. The photograph showed the hospital that once stood on the same property. On the second floor, one window was illuminated. Room 217. And standing behind that window was a young boy. No one could identify him.
I saw the photograph years later. I didn't recognize the boy, but I recognized the feeling, like I'd seen him before.
The photograph was taken on October 17th, 1986. The same day Eleanor Vale was admitted. The same day the unnamed patient was transferred. And the same day Daniel Mercer's name first appeared in the Room 217 register. Daniel Mercer was 8 years old.
I didn't understand what I was looking at then. I only knew that I had seen that face before. I just couldn't remember where.
Some rooms are built with walls, others are built with memories, and some were never meant to be entered twice. File 002, closed.